Elias Crawford's mansion stood like a fortress carved from glass and stone, set far above the world he preferred not to feel. From the outside it looked glorious, an architectural marvel with sweeping staircases, hidden elevators, and rooms drenched in silent wealth. Inside, however, it felt hollow, like a museum of a life no one truly lived. People whispered about him everywhere. Cold, calculating, emotionless genius. Elias didn't mind. He built an empire on distrust. People could smile at you for years and betray you in seconds. He'd learned that early. That was why only one person had ever crossed the walls surrounding his heart. Marisol. She had been his housekeeper for 15 years, long before he was a billionaire. She saw him through breakups, business betrayals, victories, funerals. She treated him like a human when the world treated him like a machine. So when Marisol timidly knocked on his office door one quiet morning, he immediately sensed something unusual. "Mr. Crawford," she said, twisting the hem of her apron as she stepped inside, "may I ask you for a favor?" Elias set down his tablet. Marisol never asked for anything. "Go on, it's my daughter, Lila." She swallowed. "I need her to stay here for a couple of weeks. Just until I sort things out at home." Elias wasn't the type to ask unnecessary questions. But he noticed the redness around her eyes, the way her hands shook. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. He nodded. Of course. But the moment she left his office, a thought sparked in his mind. Her daughter, staying in this mansion. Young, observant, unpredictable. Elias didn't like unpredictable. Still, he prepared the guest wing, notified security, and instructed staff with clinical efficiency. He told himself it was because he trusted Marisol. But deep inside, a darker curiosity lingered. He wanted to see what kind of person Marisol had raised. The arrival. Lila arrived quietly the next morning. No suitcases, only a worn canvas backpack. She was nothing like the spoiled rich daughters Elias had met. No branded clothes, no flashy accessories, no loud perfume. She walked with careful awareness, her eyes absorbing everything: the archway design, the antique mirrors, the placement of security cameras. Not suspiciously, just perceptively, like she was trained to notice things others ignored. When Marisol introduced her, Elias simply nodded. "Thank you for letting me stay, Mr. Crawford," she said gently. Her voice surprised him, steady, calm, unafraid. Most people stuttered in front of him. Yet she held her composure perfectly. That alone made Elias pay attention. Over the next 3 days, he watched her silently. Lila was polite, quiet, almost too quiet, yet she moved with purpose, as if she was searching for something she didn't want found. Elias noticed everything. He couldn't help it. She studied the mansion's structure. She memorized schedules. She observed staff behaviors. She noticed tiny details, like the crack in his ancient porcelain bowl no one had ever pointed out before. Elias didn't know whether to be impressed or suspicious. And suspicion always won. The test. Elias believed people revealed their true selves when tempted. Wealth was the most honest mirror of human nature. Offer someone a fortune and watch their character break. He needed to know who Lila truly was. So on the 4th night, he engineered a situation. He chose his office, the darkest room in the mansion, where he kept documents worth billions. He sprawled across the leather couch, pretending to sleep. His breathing was deep, steady, perfectly controlled. He had practiced this technique years ago during a negotiation trick. But the real test lay beneath the table. An envelope containing $40,000 in cash, deliberately left half exposed, enough to tempt anyone. To make it even more convincing, he loosened the buttons on his shirt, placed his phone beside him, and dimmed the lights just enough to cast believable shadows. Then he waited. The digital clock blinked softly. 1:08 a.m. 1:17. 1:24. Then, soft footsteps. Light, cautious, unmistakably hers. Lila paused at the doorway. Elias kept his eyes closed, chest rising in slow, even breaths. He listened as she took 3 hesitant steps inside. One more, then another. She stopped right near the table. Her shadow darkened the edge of the envelope. Elias waited for the sound, the faint rustle of bills, the temptation winning. But the room remained quiet. Too quiet. Then he felt her presence shift. She knelt, right beside him. "Mr. Crawford," she whispered, her voice firm but soft, "I know you're not asleep." His heart jolted, but his expression didn't betray him. "You're testing me," she continued. "Because you don't trust anyone. Not even the person who cleaned your home for 15 years. Her words were gentle, not accusatory, but they cut through him with surgical precision. She placed the envelope back on the table with respectful care. Then she stood and moved toward the ancient porcelain bowl sitting on the top shelf of his cabinet. Elias couldn't see her through his closed eyelids, but he listened, each sound sharper than the last. A soft click, a cap twisting open, a subtle brushstroke. When he finally opened his eyes a sliver, he saw her repairing the crack in the bowl, using a tiny tube of gold lacquer, restoring it using the ancient kintsugi technique. A method meant not to conceal damage, but to highlight and honor it. Her movements were slow, precise, graceful. When she finished, she whispered to the bowl, "Things that break can still be beautiful, if someone chooses to mend them." Elias felt something tighten inside him. Something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Vulnerability. She returned the bowl to the exact spot, aligning it perfectly with the shadow line on the shelf. Then she turned toward him one last time. "I'm not here to take anything," she whispered. "Least of all from a man who already has more scars than he admits." She left the room without touching the money again. Elias didn't move, not for several minutes. He stared at the bowl, its crack now traced in shining gold. She saw through him. She understood him. She fixed something in his home he didn't even know needed fixing. And for the first time, Elias Crawford wondered if he had just met the one person his money couldn't control. Elias Crawford barely slept after that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lila's steady gaze, the soft shimmer of gold on the repaired porcelain, and her calm words. "You have more scars than you admit." No one spoke to him like that. No one saw him like that. He had built his life behind steel walls, walls that protected him from betrayal, opportunists, greed. Walls no one had ever dared touch. Yet Lila, with her quiet voice and unshakable calm, had placed a crack in that wall just like the one she repaired on the bowl. And she didn't even know it. The morning after, Marisol found him in the kitchen at 6 a.m., earlier than any staff had ever seen him. "You're awake early, sir," she said, confused. "I have work," Elias lied, though he had no meetings on his schedule. He watched the doorway subtly, waiting for Lila to appear. He didn't know why. Curiosity, guilt, something softer he didn't dare name. When she finally entered, dressed in simple jeans and a gray sweater, she greeted him politely. "Good morning, Mr. Crawford." Her face held no expectation, no nervousness, no sign that she knew she'd unsettled him the night before. She moved with quiet grace, not avoiding him, but not seeking his attention either. That, for some reason, bothered him. People usually chased his validation. They wanted his approval, his praise, his money. Lila didn't want anything. It made Elias feel unsteady. A mystery in plain sight. Over the next few days, he watched her more closely, not out of suspicion anymore, but fascination. She was nothing like the wealthy daughters he had encountered. When she moved, she looked at the world as if it held secrets only she could decode. She spent long hours in the garden, tracing leaves with her fingers as if they spoke. She touched books in his library not with greed, but reverence. She examined paintings like each brushstroke told a hidden story. And she always noticed him before he noticed her. Like she sensed his presence. One afternoon, he found her standing in the great hallway, staring at a portrait of his late mother. Lila didn't touch it, she simply stood there, eyes soft, expression unreadable. "You miss her," she said without turning. Elias stiffened. "You don't know anything about her." Lila finally faced him. "I know grief when I see it." He had no answer to that. Secrets revealed. On the fifth night, he heard soft crying in the kitchen. It wasn't Lila, it was Marisol. Elias rarely interfered in personal matters, but something pushed him to enter quietly. Marisol wiped her eyes quickly. "Mr. Crawford, I didn't want you to hear." "What's wrong?" he asked. "It's Lila's father," she whispered shakily. "He's been searching for her since she left. He's dangerous, sir. I didn't want to burden you with this." Elias's blood warmed with something sharp, anger. Protective instinct. The thought of anyone threatening Lila ignited something primal in him. Why is he looking for her? Marisol hesitated, trembling. Because she knows something. Something she wasn't supposed to see. Elias leaned in. What did she see? She saw him hurt someone, Marisol whispered. She saw everything. She escaped before he could silence her. Silence crashed into the room. Now Elias understood Lila's watchfulness. Her quietness. Her ability to sense danger. Her instinctive understanding of fractured things. She wasn't just intelligent, she was surviving, and he had tested her with money, while she lived with the memory of real fear. A guilt he never expected lodged in his chest. Marisol, he said quietly, your daughter is safe here. No one will touch her. For the first time, Marisol believed him completely. The storm arrives. The very next night, everything changed. Elias was in his office when the security alarms buzzed, not loudly, but with a discreet, coded vibration. Someone had crossed the outer gate. Someone who knew how to avoid triggering the main system. He rushed to the surveillance room and scanned the screens. A shadowy figure was approaching the mansion grounds. Tall, deliberate, confident, a predator. Lila's father. Elias's jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. He grabbed his phone and issued orders to security. But before reinforcements could surround the property, Lila appeared in the doorway of the control room. Her face was pale, eyes wide, breathing rapid. He's here, she whispered. He found me. Elias had seen fear before, but never like this. Not the fear of losing money or reputation. This was deeper. The fear of losing life. He stepped toward her. Lila, listen to me. You're safe. Stay close to me. But she shook her head. He always finds a way in. Always. Not this time. Elias wasn't going to let anyone break into his home, or touch someone under his protection. With a calmness that shocked even himself, he reached out and took her trembling hand. Not while I'm here, he said softly. I promise you. Her fingers tightened around his, just slightly, but enough to send something warm and terrifying through him. Trust. She trusted him, and Elias Crawford would burn the world before he let someone break that trust. The confrontation. Security captured the man before he could reach the mansion. He was livid, thrashing, shouting threats that made Lila's blood run cold. You think he can protect you? Her father screamed as guards pinned him down. You belong to me. The words made Elias's vision darken with fury. He stepped forward, eyes cold enough to freeze stone. She belongs to no one, Elias said quietly. Especially not you. For a moment, the world stilled. Even Lila looked at him differently, like she was seeing him for the first time. Her father was taken away by authorities. Charges were filed within hours. Elias made sure of it. When everything finally calmed, he found Lila sitting alone on the steps outside, knees pulled to her chest. He approached quietly and sat beside her. You don't ever have to fear him again, Elias said softly. Lila looked up, and for the first time since she arrived, her eyes weren't guarded. They were vulnerable, trusting, grateful. I didn't think anyone would believe me, she whispered. Not even the police. I believe you, Elias said. More than you know. She exhaled shakily, and he realized, she had been carrying this alone for a long, long time. You fixed a broken bowl, he said gently. But you're still breaking inside. Lila blinked, startled. And he hesitated, voice low, I want to help you heal too. For the first time, she didn't look away. And in that quiet, moonlit moment, Elias Crawford, a man who trusted no one, realized he would do anything to protect this girl who had shown him what true integrity looked like. What neither of them knew was that this was only the beginning.